Hi guys, it's Jeffrey and welcome to a new Boy Reads World video. Today I'm doing a bit of a different video. I'm going to show you my TBR shelf. I've been holding out on buying books for myself for the past 2 or 3 months now, I think, because I really want to get my TBR down. It's about down to 50 right now, and I want to get it down to around 30, 35, so until then I'm not buying anything for myself unless it's for buddy reads or just book club in general. So it's it's great to have some motivation to just keep on reading and getting that TBR down. And before we get started, I would like to apologize for my all too bit wrecked voice, because I just spent the last 5 days at a festival and alcohol does not smooth the voice, it seems. So yeah, let's get started. So this is the TBR shelf in its entirety. You'll see that there are a couple of Flemish books among them, but most of them are just translated from English, so you'll definitely recognize the titles. First book that I read was Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Those of you who saw my booktubeathon vlog know that I got halfway through this book but then had to put it aside because the readathon was over, and so was my need for reading this, but I'll pick it up eventually. Then another book that was on my TBR for the booktubeathon was The Bees by Lillian Paul, but I didn't get to this at all. Another book that was on my TBR for booktubeathon, Pidgin English by Stephen Kelman. Still got to read this also. And finally, the fourth book that I didn't read for booktubeathon was Burial Rides by Hannah Kent. I've heard a lot about this book, so I really want to start reading this soon. Then the Dutch version, For to Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which apparently cost 15 euros. So then we came by the end by Joshua Ferris. I already read To Rise Again at a Decent Hour by him, which was one of my most hated books of 2014, and it inexplicably got nominated, shortlisted even, for the Man Booker Prize. So I don't think I'll be reading this one very soon. Maybe if the memory of his other book is a bit less present in my mind, but I doubt it. Then we have There But For The by Alice Smith, which is one of the most original premises that I've ever read, and that is that a man is invited to a dinner party and then just goes upstairs and stays in the host's bedroom for like months on end. So I still haven't read this one, hence it being on my TBR pile, but it's at the top to be read. We have A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, who is a Japanese writer, and this is also a story that takes place in Japan. I know this was quite popular on BookTube a few years ago, and it was also longlisted for the Man Booker Prize, so this won't be a disappointment, I hope. Then we have The Little Friend by Donna Tartt, which has one of the ugliest and creepiest covers that I ever saw. I already read The Goldfinch and The Secret History by her, so this is the only book that I still have to read. But this has gotten some really bad reviews, so I'm a bit scared to go into this one and not like it, because I really loved her 2 previous books. Then we have The Gravity of Birds by Tracy Guzman. I hadn't really heard anything about this, but it was at a local supermarket for 5 euros, and I thought I'd give it a whirl, but as you can see, I still haven't done that, so who knows when I'll read this, but 5 euros, I just had to put it in my shopping bag. Then we have The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. I actually bought this on a whim because I saw it doing the rounds on BookTube a couple of months or maybe even years ago. It reminded me a bit of the premise of Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, but maybe I'm totally wrong about this. Still, seems like an interesting premise to start with. Then we have this unbelievable chunker called The Wood of Expectation, I think, if you have to translate it into English, by a Dutch writer called Hella S. Haase. She has already passed away a couple of years ago. And this is a historical fiction novel. It's about the French court during the 1300s and 1400s, so that's the time period I'm really interested in, both in France and in England, so it's just a matter of finding the courage to start this one. And we have another novel written in Dutch, and I really can't translate this because it's called Een Vlucht Regenwulpen, and I know how to say a flight, but whatever regenwulpen are, I have no idea. So, and yeah, this is by Martin Hart, and that's all I know about this, but it's considered a Dutch modern classic. Then we have something completely different, and that's Bel Ami by Guy de Maupassant. I wanted to read something French from before the 1900s, and this is written somewhere in the second half of the 19th century. I already read French classics like Madame Bovary and The Count of Monte Cristo, so I thought I'd branch out a bit with Guy de Maupassant and discover what he is all about. The next book is Sprakeloos by Tom Lanma, who is a Belgian author, and this can be translated into Speechless, and this is about his mother who suffers from a stroke and suddenly can't talk anymore, while before that she was a very vibrant, talkative woman, and it's about how her life drastically changes and how to cope with losing the one thing that defined her. Then we have an Irish classic, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. I actually started reading this a couple of times over the years, but I just can't get into it. I'm holding out hope, I guess. Then I have The Thing Around Your Neck, which is a couple of short stories by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I bought this book after I had read Americana for my book club, and I found it so awesome and so interesting that I wanted to read more things by her, but as you can see, I definitely failed on that front. Then we have A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again by David Foster Wallace, which is a book of essays, and I've read a couple of essays in this, but I found that reading too much essays in one go by him is just too confusing and too difficult for me, so this is a book that I get out from time to time. I read an essay and then just put it back. Then another collection of short stories, and that's Kiss Kiss by Roald Dahl. I've only ever read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by him, and a couple of his short stories. I have the same mantra for this one as I have for the David Foster Wallace's one. I just get this out from time to time. I read a couple of short stories. It's not that they're too difficult, it's just, I guess I just want to savor Roald Dahl because it's the only book by him that I've got. Then we had 1,000 Autumns of Jacob de Zoet. I picked this up after reading The Bone Clocks by him, but I think I started this one but only read like one chapter and then put it away. But I know that this starts with a childbirth somewhere in China a couple of centuries ago, so that premise alone is very fascinating. So I don't really know why I put that away, but I guess we all have those moments of why did we stop reading this. Then we have The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson, who is an Australian writer. I already read The Rosie Project by him, and this is a sequel. I guess I'm saving this for when I want something light-hearted and not too difficult, because he writes very funnily, but it's not that much substance. Then we have The Ocean by the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. As you can see, I've already started reading this one. I've never read anything by Neil Gaiman, so this is my first book. Somebody recently said on BookTube that this is a good book to start with. I'm holding them to that. If only I knew who that was. We're about halfway there, guys. The next book is A Year of Marvelous Ways by Sarah Winman, which was also popular on BookTube last year, I think. And I know this is about a grandmother who meets a soldier by the river someday, and I guess they have an adventure together. Then, the next one is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I have to admit that I only have read the first 5 books. I actually started reading the 4 first books when I was in my teenage years, but then the 5th book just got me like, nyeh. And I only recently, like this year, picked up the 5th book and then just rushed through it in one go, and now this one is waiting for me on my TBR shelf. This is one I actually borrowed, but I should really get on with it so I can give it back to my friend. And we have Meltdown by Ben Elton. I got this from a friend who is a really big Ben Elton fan, and as you have with certain people, when they really enjoy an author, you just get their favorite author as presents. But I already read one book by him, High Society, I think, or something like that, and I quite enjoyed it, so I'm not that too miffed with this present. Then another David Mitchell book, Cloud Atlas, which is probably his most famous book, so I should really get a move on this one also. Garden Ruins. I read Life After Life at the beginning of the year, and then I immediately bought this one, and somehow I just haven't started reading this one, so woe is me. Next book that falls in the same category as A Garden Ruins is Half of Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I bought this book at the same time as I bought The Thing Around Your Neck by her, because I read Americana just a few days before that, and I really wanted to read something else by her, but as you can see, I'm really not good at following up my favorite authors, guys. Then we have A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I bought this in an English bookstore in Prague this year, and I know that this is considered a classic. And that is frankly all I know about this. And why do you know? Another Ben Elton book given to me by that same friend. This is Time and Time Again, which is about time traveling and the First World War. This is pretty much at the bottom of my TBR, to be honest. But up next is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Really hate this cover, but I saw it for like €2 or something at a book fair, and considering it's a well-loved book on BookTube, I thought I'd buy it. Then we have another Belgian author called Marnix Peters, and this is De dag dat we Andy zijn arm afzaagden, which can be translated into The Day That We Cut Off Andy's Arm. I guess the title speaks for itself. Then we have Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. I think everybody knows about Bridget Jones. Next is Lila by Marilyn Robinson. I think this was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize last year, which was for me reason enough to buy it. Then we have Ms. Late by Nell Zink, which is about a gay professor having a child with one of his female students, and let's admit, that's all we really need to know, right? Then we have a Dutch copy of You Shall Know Our Velocity by Dave Eggers. I don't really know that much about this, except that I have read a couple of short stories by Dave Eggers which I liked, which was reason enough to buy this. Then we have Euphoria by Lily King, which takes place in the jungle. Then we have Euphoria by Lily King, and I think I bought this after I had finished The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihara, and I just wanted to stay in the jungle theme, which I clearly didn't. Then we have Happy Slaves by Tom Lanois, who wrote Speechless, which was one of the books that I showed you earlier. This book takes place in both Buenos Aires and South Africa, and it's about two Belgians who are seeking happiness at the other side of the world. Then we have Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. His first book, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, was one of my favorite books of, 2012 when I read it. And then I immediately bought this one, but I just can't get through the Jewish settlement scenes, and it's really weird because all the friends who have read this really didn't have any trouble with that, but I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. Then we have another modern classic, and I guess this is one of the first examples of true crime fiction, and that's In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, which is about the murder of a couple of farmers in the 1950s. I got this for my birthday like 4 years ago, so I should really get a move on it. The next book is Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. I had to read Beloved for class a couple of years ago at university, and I really loved that one. So when I saw this one at a bookstore a couple of years ago, I really wanted to read it, so I bought it. And as you can see, I still haven't bought it. So Beloved remains the only book that I read by Morrison to this day, which is quite shameful. Then we have the Man Booker winner of last year, and that's A Brief History of 7 Killings by Mylan James. I have started this one already, as you can see, but it's a bit difficult with the Jamaican slang that is being used. It's one that I read a chapter of every now and then put away again, but I should really just keep reading it, because otherwise I won't get much out of the story, I think. Then we have an original German or Swiss book, I think, and that is Ungeduld des Herzens by Stefan Zweig. I already started reading this book like last year in February and then put it away because it's a bit slow and I wanted to read things that were faster paced, so I should really pick this one up soon because I quite enjoyed the story actually. It's about a soldier at the eve of the Second World War who is stationed in Hungary and then does some sort of faux pas with a count's daughter, and yeah, the story continues from there, but like I said, still at the beginning stage, which is very slow. Then we have a Swedish book, which is The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. This was an enormous hype in Belgium like 2 years ago, and like everybody and his dog read it, so I had to buy it because, you know, I am a sheep. but I still haven't read it, and as the years pass by, I'm less and less interested in it. Then we have Purity by Jonathan Franzen in a Dutch version. I read The Corrections and Freedom in maybe 2 months' time, back to back, and when this one came out, I wanted to have it, but like you see, still haven't read it, but it's near the top of my TBR, so I'm hoping I'll make work of it soon. And we have the beautiful Dutch version of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, which is her biography, I think, and yeah, that's all you need to know, I guess. Another Man Booker winner, which is The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan, who is an Australian writer. These are about prisoners of war at a Japanese camp who are building the Burmese Railroad. I've heard that this is really hard and tough to read, a lot of violence. I bought this after it had won, and I still haven't read it, which is going up to 2 years by now. Shame, really. Then we have the last book that I bought before I decided that I really had to start reading more books that I already owned, and this is The Uncollected Stories by B.J. Novak. I know that he played a role in The Office, and it has a relationship with Mindy Kaling, which explains nothing about the book, but that's all I know. Then the penultimate book is The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, who is a Spanish writer, and this is a sort of sequel to The Shadow of the Wind by him, which I really adored a couple of years ago, so I bought this one, and once again I didn't read the follow-up book yet. And then last but not least, or maybe it is least because I haven't read it yet, and that is The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. This was translated into Dutch with the title A Good Advice, which I don't know why they did that. Maybe The Casual Vacancy was a weird thing to translate, although I can't really imagine what the trouble with it is, but I think this takes place in a small village, and some things happen which are really not normal, and I know that somebody dies at the beginning, but that's all I know. So I know that a lot of my friends read this one and didn't really like it, which explains why it's still on my TBR. Those were the 50 or so books that are still residing on my TBR shelf. If you spotted any book that you would like me to read first because you just loved it or something, please let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video or other videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye!